Right, the map is Fracture, it's round 2, this is Goose versus Luke, and I'm joined by Goose and Luke, so that's pretty exciting stuff. And various other players I would hasten to add. So let's get the names up at the top, the production tab up in the top left. Goose here in the top left of the map, sending out a worker, presumably to go forth and check down here. Over on the other side of the map, Luke is building a pylon, which is great. And this worker has decided, I don't want to be down here on my own. I'm going back upstairs to build me a nice supply depot. So nothing out of the ordinary yet. Not that you would expect anything unusual this early in the game. Yeah, so this is, Fracture's a pretty small map, really. Reasonably short rush distances across this map, and it's a map that lends itself quite well to a 2-base all-in. Your expo is easy to hold on this map, your third is harder to hold, and your fourth is very hard to hold. So it does kind of lend itself to early game aggression and that sort of thing. So it looks like Luke is going to be the first player to step out and go and have a look around to see what he can see. This worker has taken a gift, bearing the gift of minerals. He's going to walk across the map and presumably present that to his opponent and say, look, we come bearing gifts, we come in peace. His opponent, no gift. See, straight away, that's how it starts, isn't it? That's how the smack talk starts. First of all, you show up with no gift, and before you know it, it's F10N, isn't it? Right, so let's see what Luke can see. Probably not much. There is a complete wall. The barracks is finished but isn't building anything, but we do have another barracks in production. So Goose lining up to do some stuff. I'd like to see this command center become an orbital. In general as Terran, as soon as your barracks finishes up, you want to get the orbital command. Orbital commands are brilliant, so don't hesitate. And there we go. Meanwhile, over in Protosville, the side core just coming down. That seems a little bit lit, but no matter.
To do it.
Right, okay, that's input from the man himself. He forgot to do it. You heard it here. So Zealot in production, only 2 in gas. Don't know if that is an error or if that's, some well sort of planned strat that it needs an exact amount of gas. I suspect the former. A reasonable amount of money building up for the Protoss player. So I don't know if we're about to see a Nexus come down here. It doesn't look like it. It just, oh, okay. Oh, well, that is the money scan, isn't it? So the scan sees all, every single structure being built. The scan sees all. So that's a bit of a win from the Terran point of view. Knowing exactly what is inside your opponent's base is very nice indeed. So he knows that there are a lot of gateways. He knows, presumably, does he know that there's no expand here? Yeah, I think, to be honest, if I saw that at this time in the game, I would be thinking there's going to be a big push of gateway units coming in my general direction. So I will gear myself up for that. How do you gear yourself up for that? Well, they're gateway units rather than air. So a bunker, maybe 2 bunkers, get some Marines in, have a couple of SCVs on standby, ready to repair, and you should be absolutely right as Ren. It takes a lot of gateway units to break bunkers on their own. So, Tech Lab finished up, and presumably we'll see some upgrades starting from that shortly, or perhaps some Marauders in production. This worker's still just hanging out in the corner, hasn't been spotted, so you never know, he might come into play later in the game. We might see a sneaky pylon or similar. This is a reasonable number of Marines at the front door. With the depot going down here, that bracketed with some bunkers could be really, really useful. So the gateway units that I was talking about here, they come in the production tab. We can see just another Stalker being built. There is the Stargate, but nothing building at it just yet. Are we still just on the 1 gas? No, 2 gas is saturated, so it should be plenty of income to start cranking out things. And the go-to is an Oracle, isn't it? An Oracle can be a really annoying thing to have to deal with in your mineral line, and there it is. So this Oracle, about a minute behind where you'd normally expect an Oracle to appear in your mineral line. So maybe he's in the sweet spot for the double bluff. Just as the Terran, because as a Terran typically against Protoss, I like to have some of my Marines rallied to the mineral line so that when the Oracle turns up, I've got a band of Marines there that can chase it away. But when it gets to this sort of time, you think, okay, there's no Oracle coming, it isn't there. So you move the Marines out and they're at the front, and then an Oracle turns up and you go, oh, was that planned or were you just lit? Who knows? So this defensive position is beginning to look pretty good, to be honest. Certainly that is more than enough to withstand an assault from these guys. So unless there are a substantial number of extra units coming out. So let's see how this lines up. The Oracle is making its way across the map. I don't know if it's going to go into the natural. The worker here, that probe from earlier has just walked about the natural, so he will know exactly how many workers are in here. Not saturated yet, but 5 workers is still a pretty juicy pick-off. But decides to go up into the men. So if you're Goose, do you see this yet? Now you do. It will be showing up on the mini-map, and as soon as this happens, you get the alert, don't you, that your workers are being shredded. As soon as you hear that alert, you need to grab them and run. If you're in the sort of danger zone where you think an Oracle might show up, it isn't a crazy idea to have your entire worker line hotkeyed. What up? Yeah, to have your entire worker line hotkeyed so that, as soon as you hear that in the minimap, you can tap the hotkey, right click anywhere, and your workers pull really, really quickly. If you're playing on ladder and you send an Oracle in and the workers pull almost instantly, there is a chance your opponent happened to be staring at their mineral line, but who does that? More likely they just had the workers hotkeyed and were ready for the pull, is the way to react quickly. So combat shield is done, but there aren't really a lot of things in production. There's a substantial amount of money here. We're not supply blocked. So there we go. Production beginning to ramp up. I'd like to see another siege tank in production as well, because as soon as the first medevac comes out, or the first 2 medevacs pop out, you'd be in pretty good shape to march across the map and have a good time. You'll have combat shield, you'll have a couple of siege tanks, you'll have a couple of medevacs, and you'll have a fairly reasonable number of Marines. You could certainly go and apply some gentle pressure to the front door if you felt that way inclined. Now, these zealots don't have charge, so siege tanks and Marines will do well against them. The siege tanks can pummel them from afar, and the Marines can just kite backwards, and zealots will not really do very well against that. Once they have charge, it's a complete reversal. With charge, zealots get on top of the Marines, and it means the siege tanks in the background are doing splash damage on your own Marines, and since zealots are much tougher than the Marines, that ends up working out pretty bad for you. It also means the zealots can get on top of the siege tanks quite quickly as well. So yeah, it's a bit of a tipping point. Once those zealots have charge, then the Marine tank army becomes substantially less effective. So a bunch of pylons here. Was that just to get out of a supply block? It looks like it. Looks like both of these players are getting getting their natural expands up, mining, and kind of settling in for a slightly longer game. Army supply is pretty even. Worker supply dead even. That's translating reasonably, as you would expect. The Terran, of course, has mules, and that helps them bump their income if they have an even number. I say that, I don't see a single mule. But anyway, I'm not really sure why the income is so much higher then. Is it? Oh, he's just got... What? Wait. What? I knew it. I've known it all along. SCVs are just broken. Totally OP. So this is going to get saturated, but there hasn't been any worker production in the Terran base for a long while, and this bit, this isn't saturated. There's no gas being mined here. There's a big gas imbalance, so you need that gas, and there's no orbital here for that extra income as well. Oversaturation in the men. This is not a well-managed economy, I'm sad to say, Goose. This factory idle. We're a bit supply blocked at present, to be fair. Oh, good. Well, that is perfectly valid use of the orbital command energy, and it's a really useful thing to get yourself out of trouble. But yeah, I'd like to see a few more siege tanks in this mix. So it's a good number of Marines. It's a reasonable number of Zealots, but without charge, they're just not that effective. Do we have... Yeah, no Warp Gate researched yet. So Warp Gate would be a useful addition. This is a reasonably scary number of Void Rays. Void Rays are another unit that sort of has a tipping point. When it's Void Rays against Marines, it's very much a number game. If the Marines are in large numbers, then Void Rays just pop and disappear out of the air like they weren't there. But you get to a critical mass of Void Rays where the Marines are dying so quickly that you need a really substantial number of them to beat them. Not this many, we've only got 6 so far, is not quite at that critical mass yet, but this isn't a huge number of Marines, but it's getting there. So the load up into the medevac I really want. A drop is a perfectly good plan. I'd like to see a scan go down on the front or in the back, somewhere, just so you can get an idea of where your opponent's army is before you send that medevac in. And what you would normally do with the medevac is not this, because flying straight across the map, you're going to end up in the front door. Normally what you would do is you just hold down shift and you click around the edge of the map, you hit D, you click into the mineral line, you hit boost, and if you want to at that point you can pretty much forget about it until you get the little ping on the mini map that tells you that your units are engaged. So these Void Rays are just going to smash that, and that's a horrible loss. That's 8 dead Marines and a dead medevac for nothing, literally nothing, which is vile. The only thing you've got from that is, if you were looking, you know what it got killed by. You know that your opponent had these Void Rays. So the scan sees this lot, but I don't think it caught these moving out. Hard to tell. This as a defensive position, 4 siege tanks here. This just, I don't know. This is going to have a very hard time breaking this. So long as there's a couple of SCVs to repair. This siege tank up here I don't like. I'd like that further back so that you can get Marines in front of it, because otherwise the Void Rays are just going to be able to nip in here and snipe that for free. Whereas if it's positioned a little bit further back, siege tanks have a huge range. It's still being useful, but it means that you can run forward with Marines. You can stim some Marines into this region. This Marine, he's drawn the short stock. Go out and see what's there. I don't want to. Guys, I'm coming home. So this is nice because he can wander out here, lure a few Zealots across, run, and the tank is, instantly just removes the shields off these Zealots, which is very nice indeed. These Void Rays have gone for the prismatic alignment, but look, the Zealots are taking a paste in, but he needs to get some of these Marines. I don't like the pull of all of them. I don't like it. I'd much rather he had grabbed enough. Oh no. Enough Marines to see these off and left the rest of them down here, because the Zealots on the low ground, they were never going to appear up here, but they could very well have had at the front door, and you've just pulled all of the Marines. So if you've just held this off, what do? You chuck everything in the medevacs and you boost across the map. You leave a couple of siege tanks, you leave the front door closed, and you keep spamming the A button. Oh my god. Grinder. And look, army-wise, it's a win. Economy-wise, it's horrible. So let's have a look at what just happened. A whole raft of workers just died here. They died bad. Now, how many Void Rays have we got? We've got 10 Void Rays at home. We've got this. That is a lot of Marines, though. Bear in mind, Marines, after a while, graphically, you stop seeing the numbers on screen, don't you? So the tab down here is a much better representation. Each tab is 24 units. So if I've clicked all of these and it's got 3 tabs, I've got at least 48 Marines here. So let's see how the engagement goes. Not that well at present. These Marines need to stim forward and get underneath the Void Rays. The siege tanks are literally doing nothing. They're dancing at the back. They need to be sieged up. They need to be getting involved. These Marines, again, they need to be underneath the Void Rays, but it looks like there is just more than enough Terran here to just crunch through. Is that the Oracle still going ham? It is. So, all bad, but who's positioned whom do you favour here? I mean, the Terran surely has got this in the bag. What can possibly go wrong from here? There's still... Oh no, the Marines are trapped behind the tanks. The tanks are going to unnecessarily take punishment from a Void Ray that shouldn't be doing anything. But how many have we still got? We've still got, what, 30 Marines? 30 Marines, 3 siege tanks. This Oracle isn't going to cut the mustard. There's enough... medevacs here to keep this up. It's hard to see how the Protoss can survive this. There's no income at home, but it doesn't matter. You've got 5 grand in the bank. Are there still Marines being made? There are not. Are there medevacs being made? There are not. Are there siege tanks being made? Look, this is painful. No, nothing in the production tab. Why? Why no production? You don't need to manage this. Your units are shooting buildings. Buildings don't run away from you. No micro required. So there it is. That's the GG. And yeah, that's the GG. Goose takes game 1. Very nice.